All right. There will be a couple minutes of silence as people's audio connects. Hello, and welcome to the Brooklyn Rail's 121st New Social Environment. I'm Emily, and I have the pleasure and privilege of being your MC today for a radical poetry reading curated by Brandon Shimoda. Every Wednesday leading up to the election, a guest curator will invite 6 poets to the NSE to read political poetry. Today, we are also thrilled to have poets Aditi Machado, Angel Dominguez, Canisia Lubrin, Dao Strom, Sean D. Henry Smith, and Youna Kwak here with us today. A few quick notes before we get started. We'll be recording this gathering for the Rail Archive. If you would prefer not to be seen, you can disable your camera by pressing the Stop Video button in the bottom left corner of your screen. We won't have a Q&A today as we do during the lunchtime conversations, but feel free to introduce yourself and shout out where you're from in the chat. The Rail team will be helping out with tech. If you have any questions, we have Rail in our usernames, and you can enable closed captions by pressing on the Otter AI live notes in the top left-hand corner of your screen. The Brooklyn Rail acknowledges that we are on the unceded territory of the Lenni Lenape, Canarsie, Shinnecock, and Munsee peoples. We acknowledge the many indigenous nations with ties to this land, and we recognize that the Lenape still call Mannahatta home. Finally, the Brooklyn Rail stands in solidarity with the uprising unfolding across the country following the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, Nina Pop, David McAdie, James Scurlock, Jamel Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Rayshard Brooks, Rhea Milton, Dominique Remy Fells, and Toyin Salau, and in response to generations of structural violence against Black communities. Black Lives Matter, and we will continue to support ongoing action in the struggle for racial justice. Before I introduce our curator, we'd like to begin with a brief moment of silence. Thank you. And now to introduce today's curator. Brandon Shimoda is a yonsei poet and writer. His recent books are The Grave on the Wall from City Lights 2019, which received the PEN Open Book Award, and The Desert from the Song Cave 2018. He is also the curator of the Hiroshima Library, an itinerant reading room and collection of books on the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, currently installed at the Japanese American National Museum in Los Angeles. Brandon, over to you. Oh, sorry, I'm passing you the mic now. Or if maybe someone from the Rail team can ask to unmute. I don't have the host anymore.
Oh, I think there I am.
Oh, cool.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Emily, and everyone at the Brooklyn Rail. I'm going to enter into this reading with what might seem like an irrelevant or maybe even inappropriate disclosure. I have not written a single poem this year. From when I woke up on January 1st, assuming that I woke up on January 1st, until today, I've had many dreams. I've gone on many walks. I have, to paraphrase Toni Morrison, willfully created many memories. And I have even written many things. But none of those dreams or walks or memories or things that I have written were transformed or transformed themselves into poems. I have, however, read many poems, and I've reread even more poems than that. For example, one of my favorite poems, Mahmoud Darwish's Mural, which begins in Fadi Judah's translation, "This is your name," a woman said, and disappeared in the spiraling corridor I could see the sky over there within my grasp. A dove's white wing carried me toward another childhood. I wasn't dreaming that I was dreaming. Everything was realistic. I knew I was tossing myself to the side before I flew. I would become what I want in the final orbit. Everything was white. The sea hanging above the roof of a white cloud was nothingness in the white sky of the absolute. I was and I wasn't. I was alone in the corners of this eternal whiteness. I came before my time, and not one angel appeared to ask me, "What did you do there in life?" And I didn't hear the chants of the virtuous or the sinner's moans. I was alone in whiteness, alone. Nothing hurts me at resurrection's door. Not time or emotion. I don't feel the lightness of things or the heaviness of obsession. I found no one to ask, "Where is my where now? Where is the city of the dead and where am I?" There is no void in non-place, in non-time, or in non-being. It's as if I had died before now. I know this vision and know that I am heading to an unknown. Maybe I'm still alive in some place where I still know what I want. One day I will become what I want. One day I will become an idea. No sword will carry it to the wasteland, and no book. Like a rain on a mountain that is cracked from a single sprout, so neither force nor fugitive justice can win. One day I will become what I want. One day I will become a bird and unsheath my existence out of my void. When the two wings burn, I'll near the truth and reincarnate from ash. I am the dialogue of dreamers. I turned away from my body and myself to complete my first journey toward meaning, but meaning burned me and disappeared. I am absence, the heavenly and the expelled. One day I will become what I want. One day I will become a poet. Water will be my vision's subject, and my language a metaphor for metaphor. I'd neither say nor point to a place. Place is my sin and pretext. I come from there. My here leaps from my steps to my imagination. I am who I was and who I will be. The endless vast space makes me and destroys me. One day I will become what I want. One day I will become a vineyard. So let summer press from me now. Let those passing by the sugary chandeliers of the place drink my wine. I am the message and the messenger, the mail and the tiny address. One day I will become what I want. "This is your name," a nurse said, and disappeared in her corridor's whiteness. "This is your name, remember it well. And don't disagree with it over a letter or concern yourself with tribal banners. Be a friend to your horizontal name. Try it out on the dead and the living. Teach it accurate pronunciation in the company of strangers. And write it on one of the cave's rocks and say, 'My name, you will grow when I grow. You will carry me when I carry you. A stranger is another stranger's brother.' We will seize the feminine with a vowel promise to the flutes. My name, where are we now? Answer me. What is now? What is tomorrow? What is time or place, the old or the new? One day we will become what we want." Today is September 2nd, 2020. I have felt since I was a teenager, 16 to be exact, a winter's night in New England to be more exact, on acid to be even more exact, that life, especially life in the United States, is at best the equivalent of the garden of earthly delights reproduced on the inside of a kaleidoscope. The kaleidoscope has always been spinning, sometimes slow, sometimes fast. Recently, it has been spinning very fast. And I have also recently felt myself being drawn further and more irretrievably into its spinning and into the sanctuaries and seductions of anger and frustration and confusion and depression and delirium and hallucination and jubilation and love that constitute my place in the spinning and that characterize not only life, but my memory of life, including my memory of what is happening right now and of what has not even happened yet. And yet none of these feelings, none of these sanctuaries or seductions have transformed or have transformed themselves into poems. It is only recently that I've been struck by, or maybe slipped into, a realization as to why, maybe one that might even feel resonant, which is this: I am not a poet when I am writing poetry. I am only a poet when I am reading it. Because it is only when I'm reading poetry that I feel truly invited into and included within the accomplishment of its thinking, and that I feel animated and am reconstituted and made intelligent and to be at peace by its unfolding. This is especially true of the poetry of the 6 poets I'm grateful to be joining today: Aditi Machado, Angel Dominguez, Canisia Lubrin, Dao Strom, Sean D. Henry Smith, and Youna Kwak. They are 6 of my favorite poets because they are 6 of the greatest poets. Because they are 6 poets whose poetry embodies, for me, an honest accounting of what it means and what it is to continuously test and sharpen and refresh one's consciousness inside and against the collapsing eye at the center of the storm of this atrociously incomprehensible world. Because when I'm reading their poetry, the kaleidoscopes stop spinning. And not only does it stop spinning, it turns inside out, with every facet of life inflamed, reorganized, and thrown back onto the world. And for a moment, what is atrociously incomprehensible becomes a little less atrocious and a little more comprehensible, and even, thanks to them, more rewarding to bear, which in the motion and the measurement of the kaleidoscope is so much more than can be expected of this or any lifetime. But all of that is only a small part of today's invitation. Aditi is going to read first, followed by Angel, Canisia, Dao, Sean, and Youna. They all have new books out, which means that they and their books have contributed some much needed auspiciousness to this brutally inauspicious year. I'm going to read abridged versions of their bios in reverse order. Please check out their full bios on the Brooklyn Rail website and their books anywhere that you can. Youna Kwak is a poet, translator, and teacher. Her first poetry collection, Survie, was published this year by Fathom Books. She lives in the Inland Empire. Sean D. Henry Smith is an artist and writer working primarily in poetry, photography, and performance, engaging Black experimentalisms and collaborative practices. Wild Peach, new this fall, is their first full-length collection. Dao Strom is the author of the poetry collection Instrument, published by Phonograph Editions, and its musical companion piece, Traveler's Ode, Antiquated Future Records, forthcoming this fall. She's the co-founder of 2 collaborative art projects, She Who Has No Masters and Decanon. She was born in Vietnam, grew up in the Sierra Nevada foothills of California, and lives in Portland, Oregon. Panicia Lubrin is a writer, critic, editor, and teacher whose most recent book is The Dysgraphist, put out by McClellan and Stewart this year. Her debut, Voodoo Hypothesis, was named a CBC Best Book. Her writing has also been recognized by the Toronto Book Award, Journey Prize, Gerald Lampert, Pat Lothar, and the Writers' Trust. Lubrin's first collection of short fiction is forthcoming. Excellent. Angel Dominguez has survived a 100-year flood, a close encounter with a bear, a fire, a second fire, and a lifetime of systemic racism. They will not go down without a fight. They are the author of Rose Sun Water, The Operating System Press, 2020, and Black Lavender Milk from Timeless Infinite Light. Their third book, Desgraciado, The Collected Letters, is forthcoming from Nightboat next year. And Aditi Machado is a poet, translator, and essayist. Her second book of poems, Emporium, received the James Laughlin Award and will appear this fall from Nightboat. Her other works include the poetry collection Some Beheadings, also from Nightboat, and a translation from the French of Farid Tali's Prosopopoeia, which Action Books put out 2016. She works as an assistant professor at the University of Cincinnati. Aditi Machado.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Brandon, for this incredible invitation. And to Emily and Nick and everyone at Brooklyn Rail, to my fellow readers, and to everyone who has tuned in today. I'd like to begin with a line by Etel Adnan, because I have to begin with Etel Adnan. And the line goes like this: I am the prophet of a useless nation. Stop. The base of my brain hurts. I guess you could call that my invocation. I'll now read from my book, Emporium, and it's from a long poem called Epistle to the Ephesians. That's Efficience, a sort of pun on St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians. And this poem is a sort of, I guess you could say, a conspectus or a report on a country that is that the foreign speaker lives in. And so here goes. Epistle to the Ephesians. Dark night, amazing air. I am held back under the heat lamp. Before the green tea, I make the positional statement. I render the fact. There is a thin line beyond the pale. In the quiet times, I dine frequently. Elsewhere glimmers a sensory overload. More acid, please. Fold this as I report on the recession. The long lines forming onerous, prismatic hedgerows that fatten on the rib of neighborly divisions, property perimeters, icy brinks all the way down to the corner shop, the honeyed provisos of kind preachers, changed execs, sweet peach sellers, long textured lines, heavy, inalienably aromatic as newsprint, as so much writtenness, it is getting out of hand, my own hands simply fold. It gets darker, though it be a metaphor that is darkness. And it gets still, though it be a molecular deception. And it gets ever more fragrant, though it be ineffable. And the sequencing gets shook up. The conclusion wishes to assert itself, but is concealed. And so I, under the starry metaphor, I, inside the pregnant description, I, amid the tenable sense, I feel simply feelings. Under the arbor, I sniff the arborescent. I enter its porous wisdom, the crackling and cinema equal to kindling. For in some sense, I am reporting on a country, peeking over the fence, shrieking, look, look, and interiority, look, such a private green articulation, what a potted frond of despair, this man, speaking his silent monologue, face screwed up for expression. A camera studies him, lingers on his objects, whence refracts the whole of his psychosoma. The room reverberates with this curation of being. In the film of this man's life, which is cavernous, all angularities commiserate. His ennui is stirring, his rage renascent. Method and méprise are his calling cards. The camera is deft, so I am dire. I look into the mounting of desire, into the diminutive, the moon-dependent feeling. Oh, that he has a feeling. Oh, that it opens out, opening out an old sense, systematically uncoiling along the soundtrack, the appropriate record from the appropriate decade of his youth, which shaped his interior, as though from this surely the darkness, metonymic, shall proceed. I fold this. I fold all the cinema I ever grazed upon, bovine, 5,000 daisies pushing senses out of my skin. For although they showed me the thin line between being and not, my steady hand and unsteady heart, quote, unquote, when it is turned to look inside, every hesitation that might hesitates me. I write, solace is tainted, nonplussed, I write, no precision that isn't imprecision. I observe the housekeeper is an erotomaniac, pixel density and contrast ratio, multiple refrains, and a sort of pulling against consensual seduction. Thin lines meaning hesitation is a certain theory, certainty like a quality of gems and cautious doctrines. Every theory lingers in the cavities as I lapse from it. Prosodies are faithless but divine. In some sense then, according to a source, the reports have gone awry. The prolix lines, the keen sight, and the night is savage, somnifero. I remind my oriental mind. It is said, a kind of malignant mind creeps through the earth, lit only by the light of the movies. In the recession, an easterly mind is unable to give up its ideas. Accordion C. In a forest of pines, sapped pools, reports go awry, fold this. I am reporting on a country. There appears a corrosion on its hills. Birds are winding its landscape, using it to tell time. The report goes awry again. I am reporting on a country. There appears a buzzing on its sills. There appears a digital sort of graininess. A thin line appears, dividing estrangement from habit, lupines from tentacles, a spasm, a sound. Again, I am reporting on a country. Traffic is a lovely, lingering sound. Shops are open. I neglect what neglects me, feel a bit petty. I drink a wine, I dress a vegetable. Quick, kimchi, slow down. Again, according to a source, I am reporting on a country. I am learning some skills. I am wielding them as others do. I am feeling things as I am wont to do. What do I observe? Bald classicism, fallen romanticism, the stained glass of basement revivals. What do I learn? Nothing sensible. And I'll end by playing or having someone from Brooklyn Rail play a recording of Kamau Brathwaite doing Calypso. And for those who don't know, Kamau Brathwaite, great poet from Barbados who passed away earlier this year. So let's listen to that. Thank you.
The stone had skated, arced and bloomed into islands, Cuba and San Domingo, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, Grenada, Guadeloupe, Bonaire. Curved stone hissed into reef, wave teeth fanged into clay, white splash flashed into spray, Bathsheba, Montego Bay, bloom of the arcing summers. The islands roared into green plantations ruled by silver sugar cane. Sweat and profit, cutlass profit, islands ruled by sugar cane. And of course it was a wonderful time, a profitable, hospitable, well worth your time, when captains carried receipts for rices, letters, spices, wigs, opera glasses, swaggering asses, debtors, vices, pigs. Oh, it was a wonderful time, an elegant, benevolent, redolent time. And young Mrs. P's quick, irrelevant crime at 4 o'clock in the morning. But what of Black Sam with the big splayed toes and the shoe-black shiny skin? He carries bucketfuls of water, 'cause his ma's just had another daughter. And what of John with the European name who went to school and dreamt of fame? His boss one day called him a fool, and the boss hadn't even been to school. Steel drum, hit the hot calypso dancing, hot rum, who going stop this bacchanalling? For we glance the banjo, dance the limbo, grow our crops by maljo, have loose morals, gather corals, father our neighbors' quarrels. Perhaps when they come with their cameras and straw hats, sacred pink tourist from the frozen north, We should get down to those white beaches, where if we don't wear breeches, it becomes an island dance. Some people doing well, while others are catching hell. Oh, the boss gave our Johnny the sack, though we beg him, please, please to take him back. So the boy now migrating overseas.
Am I unmuted? Can everyone hear me? Hello, wonderful. Brandon, thank you so much for gathering this constellation of luminous voices. It really feels like a dream, especially now, like 2 weeks displaced from the fires in the Santa Cruz Mountains. So just thank you for gathering us in this way. And thank you to the Brooklyn Rail, all of you, for hosting this patch of sky in the infinite void of Zoom. So this is a cenote. Maybe you've heard of cenotes. This is a photograph that my grandfather Shish took before I was ever born, before my mother was ever born. And it's an unnamed, unmarked cenote. And a cenote is a freshwater sinkhole that occurs naturally in the Yucatan Peninsula. The Yucatec Maya I am Yucatec Maya, and the Maya believed that each cenote was a type of portal to Xibalba, to the underworld, and each portal had its own guardian. And so today I am the guardian of the unnamed cenote that my grandfather witnessed and brought us. And I'm going to read something from Rose Sun Water, which is forthcoming from the operating system this year, I hope. Pandemic, what are you gonna do? And this is actually a very special project for me. It has been many things, but mostly it has been a conversation with my grandmother, who sent me a poem that opens the book, and the book attempts to finish that poem. I don't know that I do. I don't know that poems end. Maybe they don't. This is from Rose Sun Water, and it's called A Cenote Blossoms in Van Nuys, California. A family of immigrants moves to the valley beyond the city. The home they find is without any record of city planning and was built in 1906 when a train still ran through this town. This house becomes a home. This home becomes a type of field or portal. They plant fruit trees from seed. Twin aguacates from the Yucatan take 2 decades to become a myth. The children's children become a new distance. The gardenias levitate. The pitaya blossoms a palm tree to grow upon. The lemon trees talk to one another throughout the night. The oranges grow less sour with every handful of salt buried beneath it. New trees are planted. Many spirits leave their bodies before these words are ever written. They live with us, and when you speak their names aloud, they know you a little better. The concrete Virgen grows roses from nothing to watch over just outside the kitchen. The mulberry tree plants legends in the hearts of the nearby inhabitants before bowing before the chainsaw. Later, a mango tree grows up to tell the story of the mysterious berries that had no name until Colorado dropped Mayatan words in a somnambulist ear. Years later, this memory would come across as orange in its summer atmosphere, orange and creek sound and so small. The chaya emerges to nourish the keeper de la huerta antes que the house dissolves, and the somnambulist calls the home an orchard because the trees allowed them to blossom and become this after image beyond the city. The city becomes something else around the orchard. The city begins to punch holes in everyone's memory, demanding the inhabitants adapt to the ongoing invasion of everywhere else wanting to be where they are not. a sickness that spread to the somnambulist, a hunger for departure, thirsty for that transit fix, all of it imaginary, none of it real. The veins of light that become asphalt by day were a kind of comfort now grown strange. The truth is a spiral, an ongoing descent through cycles. Each return to origin allows for a further vertical distance in memory. I sow this now to yours as you read this, and we become cross-stitched and bound to one another. The city continues humming within the body despite all the silence surrounding the somnambulance. See, our blood is always buzzing. The house is going to be destroyed before this book is ever finished. There is nothing to do but bloom this set of neurons in temporality, and sometimes you have to rebuild the structures within your body again and 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 again. I remember that I do not remember. The rain comes down in thick brushstrokes, piles of color shimmering from the movement. The trees, they dance, the trees, they twirl. I build a house in the dead-end housing complex of my heart. The rent is cheap enough to live, and every tenant is on a second chance account of some kind, my heart included. I keep trying to build the square footage into my organs. I keep trying to form a floor plan out of the memory. Every time I touched my hands to those walls, feet to the floors, I am trying to remember a feeling beyond the ruin to come. There will be no pyramid, there will be no archive. Our home will become the shape of an overpriced future that I can't afford. I hope every tenant's aguacates rot before they can use them. I build a roof above a dream I've yet to have. The empty chairs manifest spirits and ancestors, and we're all moving out before it's too late. And I'm gonna read one more piece from Rose Sun Water, and then I'll finish with the only thing that I've written since fleeing a fire. This is, Dear Rose, I want you to be sun, become water. I want to save the house, save the city, save the sea, and still I can't. All I can do is hold them together in my memory, piling this language next to me, counting the containers and measuring their weight. And did this sentence last a year yet, or did they ever really die? Did we ever exist at all? And under the blue flower Scorpio moon, I dream of more time with the lemon trees. I dream of the aguacates teaching me everything they know about growing, everything they know about freedom. I learned to become the house and begin to build one in the heart of my heart. I forgot to take a brick. Wanted the memory to stick more than maybe, tried to make a talisman out of the tragedy, sky all on me. The angel trumpets levitate and face the sky when I return to the house in dreams. It seems the structure continues to grow older in the imaginary, which may be entangled in a dream or another thing happening elsewhere where the house survives. I don't assume to know the finer details of the holographic universe. I feel it sometimes and can't language fast enough to render it real, and we remain parallel, never touching. And yet, is that not a form of touch? Is touch not the repulsion of electrons, atoms hovering like star systems, becoming a type of distance that communicates a nearness, the impossibility of connection? We become enmeshed in this language mess, and yet it's the only way that I can reach you. This weary warble, the low yawn of the somnambulist waking the forest. And I just want to end with, so for those of you who don't know, I've been writing to my ancestral oppressor, Diego de Landa, for what feels like a lifetime, but it's really been 6 years, and I wrote a brand new one yesterday, and this is the only thing I've written in I don't know how long. And so I want to read it to y'all, and here we go. So this is from the Night Boat collection that's coming out next year. Dear Diego. Dear Diego, I'm tired of speaking from beyond the grave. I'm tired of the language boomerang, that trago de fuego que nunca para. Tired of the desert, tired of the weight these organs carry. tired of translating and interpreting, tired of language, tired of suffering, tired of the many-headed hydra that is colonization, tired of its 10,000 heads and their families of ignorance and their 10,000 heads of demons. I'm tired of all these screaming tomatoes. I'm tired of the corpses pouring out of my pocket. I'm tired of bathing in the blood of my enemies, for their blood floats atop an ocean of our kin. I'm tired of all these fractions, the division, tired of trying to tell the truth on a bunch of devils, tired of talking my way through this white world, tired of all the poison sloshing around everyone's heads, tired of the body bags, tired of the back and forth, tired of the eternal bruise, this open wound that's become a canyon to gaze into. I'm tired of the gaze. The way these colonizers look at me, demanding that I fit their insecurities, demanding everything of me, and then having the nerve to ask why I'm so tired. I'm tired of being tired, tired of smashing these memories of ancestry and death and displacement against my face. I'm tired of my face. I'm tired of the discourse. I'm tired of talking. I'm tired of the fires. I'm tired of death. I am tired of dying. And I am tired of many things, Diego, and yet fighting is not one of them. I don't care if I can't win. I don't care if I won't see it myself, for I am what lies beyond oblivion, and I am forever. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for that, Angel and Aditi. I am Canisia Lubrin. Can I get a thumbs up or a wave if I can be heard? Great, thank you. It is afternoon where I am. Good afternoon. For where you are, good morning, good night. Thank you to the Brooklyn Rail for gathering us, for bringing us together. Brandon, thank you. Toni Morrison writes, it's just a really brief phrase in Playing in the Dark about writers reaching for shared language for complicated things. And today I will share my minutes with four poets: Dion Brand, Natalie Diaz, Asiya Wadood, and Nicole Seeley. And of course, I will read from my own work. Let me begin with Dion Brand from The Blue Clerk. Verso 6.3. Several questions the clerk has. From this angle, when will we leave the body? The ribbed brace of human bones, the whistling flutes of lungs at hemispheric windows, and time spent on Earth. The raucous coordinates of molecules, and who records their errors and their diatonic scales. Here's where what we do is listen. Only listen to the blood and the rowdy idioms of these cities jagging east, then west. This submission to vastness that must be done at 6 a.m. each day and 8 p.m. precisely. We dipped our hands in the well of our chests to save ourselves. Just this morning, we made our assignation with birds to set our watches in motion. The coldest streets of several cities bellowed and disgorged their pyrotechnic nighttime parties. Glide me across a wooden floor, as if in the arms of swifts in flight. Sustain the chord of G from 1 year to its nomadic next. Of course, we'll exist, I suppose. But how? What would the world be with us fully in it? What about the 900 petroglyphs of our embraces? Post-colonial love poem, Natalie Diaz. They don't love you like I love you. My mother said this to me long before Beyonce lifted the lyrics from the yeah, yeah, yeahs. And what my mother meant by don't stray was that she knew all about it. The way it feels to need someone to love you. Someone not your kind. Someone white. Someone, some many who live because so many of mine have not. And further, live on top of those of ours who don't. I'll say, I'll say, what is the United States, if not a clot of clouds, if not spilled milk or blood, if not the place we once were in the millions? America is maps. Maps are ghosts, white and layered with people and places I see through. My mother has always known best, knew that I'd been begging for them to lay my face against their white laps, to be held in something more than the loud light of their projectors as they flicker themselves sepia or blue all over my body. All this time, I thought my mother said, wait, as in, give them a little more time to know your worth. When really, she said, wait, meaning heft, preparing me for the yoke of myself, the beast of my country's burdens, which is less worse than my country's plow. Yes, when my mother said, they don't love you like I love you, she meant, Natalie, that doesn't mean you aren't good. Syncope by Siawadut. There were 38 maritime vessels. They were all ocular. If they chose to be, sight is for seeing. Naming is for subjugating. If you've decided that we're black mules, mules we know are not meant for rescue. We subalterned. We 72 are human. We 72 are oil slick and black, hungry for a spot of water, bread, recognition as human. Our skin, that which contains us, is exposed to the high exacting sun. We thought this orb was God seeing us. Ordinary Beast by Nicole Seeley. I will read in defense of Candelabra with Heads. If you've read the Candelabra with Heads that appears in this collection and the one in The Animal, thank you. The original, the one included here, is an example, I'm told, of a poem that can speak for itself, but loses faith in its ability to do so by ending with a thesis question. Yeats said a poem should click shut like a well-made box. I don't disagree. I ask, who can see this and not see lynchings? Not because I don't trust you, dear reader, or my own abilities. I ask because the imagination would have us believe, much like faith. Faith, the original candelabra lacks in things unseen. You should know that human limbs burn like branches and branches like human limbs. Only after a man began hanging man from trees, then setting him on fire, which would jump from limb to branch like a bastard species of bird, did we come to know such things? 100 years from now, October 9, 2116 at 8:18 p.m., when all but the lucky are good and dead, may someone happen upon the question in question. May that lucky someone be Black, and so far removed from the verbal lynch that she be dumbfounded by its meaning. May she then call up Hirshhorn's candelabra with heads. May her imagination, not her memory, run wild. And I will read from The Dysgraphist, which is my book that came out in March with McClelland and Stewart. I will read from Act 6, Ain't I a Madness? Then again, such brutality, verbs tragic as the margins. Start here with the stately pronoun again. That needle and thread frantic phone call on the backsides of the years. I could call harvest of birdsong. On that corner alone, a madness. Or I could call it the meddled return of 45 minutes. The clinking season of rain. Would you accept this collect call from God knows where? A life now refused in the gutter. Circus flags, a pending republic, ended as the heart should end or arise. In the flash-flooded air, a birthplace answering to unrecognizable versions of elsewhere. When I was young, Jejun gave I the rejected things. Example, the breathable air. Example, the clean sea. Example, the plate with just enough. Example, the craolite, any room, anyway. Example, the mononuclear I was a sea of graces, not peace or surface. I raged, I gathering sound for the mirror. Jejun, eventually, the trees will rush the river. Inevitably, the houses will blot the map through one cynical night. And what else, Dudu darling? Tell me anyway, how you walk all these rivers, and is I feeling the shudders of all the caves behind you? Without forcing the point, will you tell the hounds that they too are deeply wounded? Or too, a song of citizen wrung out to dry in the felt-up fields, disunity the blueprint of tanked-up roads? Or call it a decorative cry. Call it the wind jostling the shutters with news of the circus animals. I among them, the pigs, the hen, the cats, trading our father, his language, for the strange freedom of the dog. That in its short speech, it keeps its doggedness a small complaint. Slogans in Heimlich maneuver, jejun, all of these words are held to islands newly doomed anyway. But let us not lock up this vault just yet. Say the written thing is direct, a line to a nerve, one electric thing to another. Perhaps this is why I can say the word love to you, Jejun, and you will point at the mouth and admit, there is its primitive ground. But the pointing, the tragedy of ampere things is all around us. And we must pretend this is new every time they camera the vista with laws, making new goads about our lives. We are not the sharpened things they make of us, Jejun. Here, drop your one saved day into this one, and let us meet us upright. Have we eaten so many salt preserve repasts? Even now, in the middle of this day, there's no use dumping I into this bay. I who'll bump that track when they come for you too. Will you face right willingly into the air when they are not looking, that you know I've been waiting here at this corner to see you all day? Do they search you for whatever? before they make the searching illegal? What about that recipe for Mom's cold roasted kidney? Contraband of hallelujahs. The shea soap she doctored in the kitchen, good enough an anti-inflammatory aid. Your mother's maiden name. Some abortions. What will they say about the usefulness of their endless killing notations? What now? In this thin hour, have I faded from the miswritten main? So when you call me Jejun, when you call me I'll say A. I will answer, because to know we are one and the same, to know this much, enough for the nights in which to sleep well, this year, the next. The starving crowd has its talents, wordless corridors famished for love, or love's vocabularies, a cosmos never tested in mud, a city in its rust-cultured tap water, arcades of scrap, the most honest Ed's ever been. Rust, PVC, another whip, another route to poor dreams. Badges, name it, and just as soon it disappears. A future paid in Kaban, watches void of their work of keeping time. A minute schism in a botanist's broken neck. A commerce of annulled records. Trees remembering fruit. The foolish work of asserting a thing. What a hard thing. The freedom that bends the back. Thank you.
Hello. I'm going to start with, I want to thank you. Thank you to the other readers. Thank you to Brandon for having me a part of this gathering. I'm humbled and honored. And thank you to the Brooklyn Rail for hosting us. It's the first reading I've done during the quarantine time. Let's see. So I'm going to read from Teresa Hak Kyung Cha, Exilé, and just a couple snippets to begin, thinking about voicing. And I have a forthcoming book called Instrument out with Phonograph Editions, and things about voice and music. And this struck me as something maybe relevant to this forum. Audience, distant relative. You are the audience. You are my distant audience. I address you as I would a distant relative. Seen, only heard, only through someone else's description. Neither you nor I are visible to each other. I can only assume that you can hear me. I can only hope that you can hear me. Object, subject. In our relationship, I am the object, you are the subject. In our relationship, you are the object, I am the subject. In our relationship, you are the subject, I am the object. In our relationship, I am the subject, you are the object. Echo. The in-between time from when a sound is made to when it returns as an echo. No one knows if it was heard, when it was heard, when it would be heard, if ever at all. But it continues on and on and on, maybe 1,000 years. Someone's memory, tale, legend, poem, dream. Okay. I'm starting. So I'll start here. There's something called cavities. To protect the me and muse, I heed the teacher who points out the dive and divine. To remember requires allowing the self-playing pianos to be triggered by ghost events, keys. Stay in it, but sometimes I just don't. The past is an exhaustion. The past is demarcation. No container like a song to hold the ever echoic. I rose like a chamber of light in a jelly skeleton, with nerves all alive and no central processing system. Because my whole body found the ache in the chamber, the tiny cities inside cavities, interlocked with caves, a far off music in communiques, hard heard. Is the moon refugee like me? Is the earth incomplete? I've always had a thing for gathering rocks from shores. Is the moon refugee or refuge or refuse? Us, we refuse to refuse. Human memory, being what it is, it slips. Is the moon refugee or refuge? Is the sun a holder of, the earth a holder back? I stood down wound, down heart, en route. The body we have is incidental. The body you or I have is not without incident. The body has had incidents. Incidents occur to the body, to bodies the world over. Photographs capture the body in incident after incident. Photographs make incident of body, body of incidents over and over. Incident turned to photograph becomes time defining, era defining. Incident becomes event, status historic. We are thus led to believe that incident can define a body, can define an era, defined by incident and then by incident's resemblance to many other incidents, our common bodies. In this way, the collective body accumulates incidentalness, becomes of incidental weight, incidental to what? Meanwhile, the incident, all incidents, all dissipate. So before I read these next fragments, I'm just going to show a picture from the book. I don't know if people can see this, but this is a picture from central Vietnam, the Phong Nha Caves region, and this set of lyric essays, I was actually there in January 2020, sort of explores that landscape and the experience of being there and going there. And I'm just going to read some fragments from the essays, and then I'll close with one last poem. It is said that trauma is stored in the body. The body retains memories the conscious mind does not remember, and thus it is that a body may go on acting blindly, even needlessly, on events no longer extant. And so I had thought bringing my body to a particular place, or proximate region at least, might be one means of wringing out some of the trauma habits associated with that place. What is the body of memory? What is the language of the body that cannot conceive of time? We chase the immaterial light. Often I wished I did not have a body so I did not have to travel back to places I could not remember. Inside the caves is actually a fervid, deep lightlessness. Cave grows itself, drip by drip, in overlong precipitation and darkness. The sole objective of water is to travel as easily as it can downhill. Rock, conducive of both water and air, yields, ever so interminably, karst whirls. A slow, turbulent, fetid, beautifying, defying, intricately violent water limestone dance ensues. Karst worlds. The mountain never imagined what its hollows in yielding could hold. While the machine of war was dropping enough bombs to recarpet the jungle floor, this is what she kept hidden within. Music of rain on jungle canopy descending. I begin by extracting water out of the rock. Inside the cave of the self, the true contours of one's interior await in darkness. The contours inside a cave, although revealed once lit, have changed nothing of themselves in becoming visible. The only change is to the accommodation of our eyes. This air will be changed over time, however, by these visitations. Danger of opening inner self to others. What is preserved in the hewing of cavities? Long ago, her tears, riverine and acidic, bore a fierce interiority into the rock. Long ago we were born. And what weight, what active gravity from within or out will it take, I wonder, for the sealing of my heart-thick chest, eventually, at last, to Dolene. Light and air let in. How long before a prehistoric grove blooms anew in the caverns of my overproductive gut? Nothing changes, everything changes. Change is interminable. Lotic trails, lentic sighs, a deep, fierce, unnegotiable tenderness runs through. This is how I will survive you. And this is my last one. Instrument. I have wanted to be a sieve. I have wanted to be an anechoic chamber and reflect back to you, no sound, but for the quiet rush and thrum of your own nervous blood. I have wanted to be instrument and not just body to be felt the cleavage of the world through, but instead to splay the invisible light winged out through skin and rushes, a bird-wing desire, a light and under fire. Thank you.
Hi. Well, thank you, everyone who's read before. Thank you, Brendan, for having us. Thank you, Brooklyn Rail. I'm gonna start off by reading a few pages from Akilah Oliver's The Putterer's Notebook. I've been in a place of study with Akilah Oliver's work recently, and yeah, in a state of rereading and just listening to when and how to be playful and when and how to be bitter and when and how to challenge one's own grief and history and so on. Yeah. Unforgivable violence, something dropped, untouched, inhabit a queered more plural. I'm here, sickness face, Teresa Hotel, that collapse, a trace, shinning. A Prince, Castro, all of us fatigued this century. I, as in not Freudian mistranslation. When is the tipping point? New York, I've been back, back many times. Sacred Heart, been back many times. Eluding best time, then conquered, then hairdressers. Remembering smell, burnt alterity. I'll never leave you no matter what. When I saw you, your sad architecture, I shook. Architecture shook. House, a dangerous weave. House, a dagger, a minimal yes, yes, it mimics. Why, when I say outside of history, I mean anything, I mean to reconstitute an other. Why, when I say belated, beloved, I infer a politic. I reference a street sign on the bad side of town. So when I say strangers find me sexy, I'm not an absent erotic seeking refusal. So when I say we haven't talked for a minute, I mean code for strawberry letter 22 or hello Richard, goodbye Boulder. If when I steal you can't fall down in this town, I have discovered human bones in the landfill. If when I say and all the little denunciations, I've solved a puzzle. Therefore, when I say now that I'm done with being dead, I have declared an alternative self. Furthermore, when I say a red flatbed truck just drifted past my window, I am documenting how pleasure. As if lateral lines and neo-nationalism were essentials, the world tipped around an image of you I create on the train, collecting ruins. This is an epistemology of forget, or then, curiously, I'm a system of relations later. Devotion, Los Angeles, treacherous, a surface recedes. A narrative of whoever collects shorelines. A dissociation between forms. You, my ongoing query, what do you dream? Who we are at opposite ends of a myth of lineage requiring negotiation. All these abstractions in my teeth, I could tell you stories, you skiver. I'll talk while we work. I'll stop there. I just really, as Brandon mentioned earlier, I've really just been in a period of rereading and sometimes hearing for the first time things that I couldn't have heard the first time around, you know. It's also been a difficult year for writing for me, but I have been able to when it's been with and for other people and in collaboration. So the works that I'll read now are from recent collaborations or thinking throughs or being with in some way others. This is Last Thursday, which is with and for Gabrielle Octavia Rucker. Over drinks at the bar, above the theater, at the end of all that was familiar yesterday, she questions the fallings of little kings, nudging the black leather piece into its lanky, isosceles slot, safe with its own for now. Communal forms don't negate the need for, nor the sacredness of secrecy. A long game, for real. You get out what you put in, and the rest is chance, it seems. What is left? What hasn't yet been done? We make our earthly return with cosmic determination, feudal resistance. We operate under honest direction and earnest scarcity. Live the short life with your hearth on your sleeve, ear to the ground. Further still, she anticipated the chaos. Apparently they all did. Some even knew as children. I break into hive and tremor as my spine remembers the frigid Pacific and how no one believed me. Of course, it is devastating and I won't hold back in telling you how. When it's raining out and again power begets power. The state is unabashedly delighted in its carnage, yes. The years spent unable to beg, plead, eye of ice, heart of stone, yes, you ought to take it personally. Growing pains well into old age. Her frustration becomes me. I carry it with me even now. Why are we back here? We ponder together daringly, letting resentment sharpen around us as the porcupine teaches. My body is my defense in the face of imminent enclosure. Its talents remain unburied. Sonorous in bitter utterances, performative dilly-dally. Perhaps we're back to take a bow, detail the determining factors. This weather in which blood bursts from my fingers, sludges in my toes. Cruel moon hangs high, and the dice again rolls. Unruly temporalities. Unruly narrator. I'm just looking to feel small in the right contexts, in the vast beauty of things preferably. For all I know is wildness, wilderness finds me when I'm not looking, beckons when I call, takes over at night, howls till high noon, unfurl into madness, an alias by any other name. Alembic antagonist, auspice antinomy, Afro-androgyny, we reek of it in good company. Everybody's hearing it. Squealing barometer, kettle black block with misery midnight knowledges, darkness, smog, and flash. An earthen rumble inside the ravenous hive. The gospel of love and protest, let me go off for a minute. The sounds of a world at its beginning, at its onto. Transformation by any means. Get in there. Stay in it. Narrative at the level of the line. Move the air as it demands. Greeting feedback, grating amaranth, permeating frankincense, sliver lingers, smoke in the monolith. The bones of the song begin shaking, latch on into grumbling welcome. Sound bitten, bother, body gather, lift, pull, tear, pull, push, roll. Organic choreography, mean-spirited when need to be, for the best of us. Queer seraphim, black wing the night, vertiginous in the hard glow, flicker, flux, shutter black, blinking in the blistering sun, stunned out of ennui. How lightning breeds thunder, light stems that know you, drain you, that summon the long ago. Glances, gazes, gauzes, goozing, shattered glass underfoot. What brings me to you is by definition rebellion together. Our breathing scream, asymmetric sonics, breathes back life into what breathes us for, bleeds us dry. Nihilist longevity, all praise, daughters of resentment, our soured tongues, thirsts for water, and we will not stop seeking our satisfaction until we are no longer thirsty. That would be out of character. Mouth faint aroma link up in that other place, noisy interiority. There is nothing, and even there is life. Eyes on you and in you hold and heed onto inner oculus, into ornate orbitals, nonetheless nocturnal masses, notwithstanding, now I know what I know. And I'm gonna read two more things. One of which is from my forthcoming book, Wild Peach. This is the titular poem. Find ourselves in the afterskin of chat and tell, Wild Peach, I hear you in dream. Unbounding clarity, the reimagined and the forgotten, the unforgivable. Flaw struck, fire strike, no flags will remain. Crystal cut, light catch, the project is avoidant, vast, vagrant, and I run to and froth, fog mouth consuming the alternate moistures, the molds of my inquiry spreading spore, porous, flower pumice, the afterthought of charcoal, the city burning beneath forever. Run and tell raises, roses, a breath, a broth, wild peach, meat, fruit, mouth bones take tender attack. My serpent-bellied soliloquy, I love it when you laugh big and your temple swells. Shadowless city, wind bring body to the brick source. Triangulation of dislocality. Rock steady, sour stream, sour juice. Hear the spaces between the outpour. And this is Remedies, which is a series of things I've forgotten I've written that are kind of nightmares and are kind of dreams. And maybe they don't differentiate that space. What can I know of this life but what it cost me? Pretending to love these patterns of negotiation, pretending the double world was acceptable. The skin beneath the skin made hell of our hell. The source from which the source draws rectifies its embellishment, reifies its abandon. Another way. In a room filled with overturned bottles, the ceiling fan turns, knowing not the relief it provides, but damns with its clicking. We lie awake at night, wondering would it be better to sweat out our sheets, turn the thing off. We remember stillness as we enact it, hoping to quiet our body as to cool it. And briefly I recall how slowly Granny eat. I see her in her dining room chair. Thank you.
Hello, can you all hear me? Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you to the Brooklyn Rail. Thank you to all the poets. I wish I could know you more. Like many people, I am often overcome with a sense of rage and beset by the desire to press that rage into some less myopic and more chiseled, more serviceable form. So I chose to read two writers who helped me with that. And I'll read two poems and then I'll read one poem of my own. The first poem is by Kim Hee-soon from her book, Mommy Must Be a Fountain of Feathers, which is given to us by translator Donmi Che. Elsewhere, Donmi has written of this poet that the highly experimental quality of her poetry is, quote, rooted in her attempt to resist conventional literary forms and language long defined by men in Korea. This poem is called To Patients with Contagious Diseases, Breathlessly. Run, holding only your lit tentacle, blue and cold. Go run. Give your bodies to maggots that feed on bodies, sell frenzied your legs to people who come to buy legs and shout your bids. Vomit, excrete, dribble, give away everything, everything. Pull out and show your wick. Run. Sick body, when someone calls you, shout back, I'm alive, alive. Don't arrive, just depart. Run so that the needles can slip out, white beds can crumble, bloody shit can splatter, and dead things and stench can fly high up in the sky. Life leaves and returns, departs and arrives, and the sick body burns up, then takes on life and runs out again. Look over there, there, happiness painted in oil is inside a frame, and now saccharine of happiness flows like a river into my blood. If someone asks, is anyone alive? Break your head open and show your tentacle. Sick bodies that keep talking in their sleep. Now I'll read a poem from Donmi Che, from her next to last book, which is called Hardly War. I just want to mention how one thing she says about the project of this book in the preface. She writes, I'm trying to imagine race equals nation, its language, its wars. I'm trying to fold race into geopolitics and geopolitics into poetry, hence geopolitical poetics. It involves disobeying history, severing its ties to power. And the history she's referring to in part is the decades-long US-backed war, occupation, domination of the Korean Peninsula, which she describes as the most violently mountainous place on earth. This poem is called Ugly Equals Nation. Once upon a time, there was ugly equals nation. It still is, mind you. The most violently mountainous place on earth is no longer. The mountains were reduced to hills as everything depends on bombers and perspective if you happen to be nothing at all. In other words, the mountains were mere hills from the perspective of beauty equals nation, which is endlessly lofty and correct. And it just happens that correctness has a great deal to do with beauty in general. If I may add, correctness is unbeatable beauty, which is why it is revered amongst skin crisp like fried potato chips. And so strategically speaking, nothing really matters in regard to ugly equals nation, since its ugliness is so utterly unbearable that it might as well be scorched, stripped bare of pines and feathers, barren to its bones. Welcome to the meat grinder. Naturally, ugly equals nation swam in a pool of DDT, a licey situation, a nation devoid of lice. Is that possible? Beauty equals nation is possible. Ugly equals nation eventually grew up to be somewhat beautiful, but that was only from the perspective of its own kind, a perspective devoid of respectable distance, padded with DDT powder, those azalea pink beaks, bloated bellies and stubby toes, those utterlings. And they aren't just Orientals, they are communists. Can you still hear me? It's hard to know. I'll close with this long poem called Home, which was at least begun, because I'm very slow at writing, circa the end of 2016, I think. Home. Where am I now if not at home? Where am I now if not at home? $5 a day, let's call it home. Let's call it home, let's call it a day. No one wanted us, why did we come? If no one called us, why did we come? Breaking and entering $5 a day, glass knocker, white door, chain link, let's call it home. Let's call it a day. Let's break down the door. I broke down the door, called it grove of orange, fairy dust, the jacaranda's beaded rush of purple spilling forth when home is for belonging, when belonging never occurred. I can't wait to go home. Waiting a word that never occurred. I can't wait what you say, precisely and only when you are waiting. I don't want to, what you say, precisely exactly when what you want goes further, higher, longer, deeper, beyond saying, but come now, shut the door, let us all go home. Leave it all behind you, let the backward glance turn them all to salt. Did God kick us out when he came and said, go home, and we ought now, go home, let's go home. $5, leave it untouched, let them teach themselves to walk, to pray, to build, we're going. Homesick for night, our night, its particular cast, our nights, our stars, those that recognize our names, our faces, point their lights, bright lights in the direction we are facing. Their homing devices. Scale the wall, let's go home. Leave them to their reckoning. Leave your kitchen, your fruit fields, your labs, your cabs. Leave the dishes, the toilets, the bridges, the miracles, the papers, the gardens, the magnificent gardens, which feed all the fists stuffed into harmless houses. Leave the clothes unwashed and the papers ungraded. Empty your pockets, leave it all on the table. Scale the wall, let's go home. We were never invited.
Don't follow their lights, we won't follow ill stars. God arrived, but he too was uninvited. Yes, it's time to go home. We're not wanted here. God arrived, said, you ought best to go. Best wish, intentions, breath star, desire. Let's not waste our precious store of desire, one life and ever after. Come, let's go home and leave them to it. We never asked to come. When we asked, we were mistaken. We admit our mistake. Let us return. Our words can but burn, crisp holes in their tongues. Let us go to the place of our belonging. Pry open the door that once slammed shut behind you when you made your way to the land of non-belonging. Home, a word that never occurred, and capsizing then through another door, and then may I sleep and wake up successful, and then may I sleep, find $1 on my table. One life only awaits us, and a second life that was stolen. Receive it. It's time to go home. There's nothing here to see. Syria, Libya, Venezuela, Iran, North Korea, Yemen, Somalia, Chad. Bottom line, impossible. What we dreamed is no longer possible. Gather up your heart, your hands. This is not our home. I have only one life. I will not waste it. Where eyes peering from the brush is intent to harm, where eyes peering from the brush bears no specific love, and no way to be seen, and the desire to be seen, a catastrophe in the making. Feet on the ground, the waving of palms, fret, willow, jacaranda. There was no invitation, let me go where I belong. Perhaps I might sleep and wake up successful. The winds too, they must go, let the Santa Ana blow. We claim and we take them. I address now my brother who does not feel addressed. Here no one sees your suffering, not even your kin. Santa Ana winds blow, then they too must go. Empty the restaurants, the fields, their fierce flowering. Leave them to the clack, clack, noisome fret of they're not willing. When the words bar our entrance, they can put our likeness in a wax museum. Where else can we go? Surface of water, ocean unbending, passing flowering fields, grassy fields, past the trucks, empty trucks, don't drive them. Abandon the ill-formed destiny of your wheel. Cut your own hair, roll your word on your tongue. It's your mother tongue. Let's go, let's get out. Let the glass knocker still. Let's not enter that house. Should not have entered that house. Where's the door? Past the mirror, through the hall of self-loathing. Where's the door? How do we go? And we thank you for the visit. The orange groves, the stillness of oaks, thank you for the visit. Wasteland here refers to where you cannot live. Houses all alike where you never had a home. What belonging can possibly mean to a stranger, gravel, bed, mound of dirt, the aesthetics of the landscape where we are not visible. Let us go, but not everyone can join us. I'll lift the yoke of kindness and just go, not return. Brush your own hair, pour your own drink, write your own books and your own dim music. Make love to yourself, tend your own garden, be your own monster, be your own weakness. I tell you, we are going home. We've only one life, we'll live it there. No second life to waste or spare. Be your own enemy, your own salvation, be your own fear. Return to safety, no second life to waste or spare. No second life to waste or spare. No second life to waste or spare.
Thank you so much, Youna. That was so amazing to listen to. And thank you, Aditi. Thank you, Angel, Canisia, Dao, Sean. It's been amazing to listen to all of you read. Thank you for sharing your poems and your wisdom. Thank you, Brandon, for organizing this and bringing all of these incredible poets together. I am like amazed every week. So also thank you to everyone who came out today. Please join us tomorrow at 1 p.m. for the first episode of Common Ground with Dwight Bullard. And I will unmute everyone so you can say thank yous and goodbyes. Or you're now able to unmute yourself.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you. Amazing.
Thank you, Youna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you,
Thank
Canisia.
you.
Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Youna. Thank you, Dao.
It is.
Hey, thank you, you guys.
Thank you, Aditi.
Thank you,
Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for these
Thanks,
amazing
Sam.
poems.
Thank you, Dao.
So deeply moving. Thank you.
Yep, so much courage, wisdom, and you know what else? Incredible honesty and a beautiful salute to our human courage and resilience. So I thank you all. It's the best thing that the Rail ever welcome in a way, because we put the poets and the philosopher above the artists. They're gonna kill me, the artists gonna hear this. But yes, poets first, you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Youna.
Thank you.
Aditi.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
you.
Yeah, let's do it again, and we're gonna celebrate. Okay. Stay hanging there, please, for now, and we'll pull it through, because this will give an amazing spirit leading to 2020 election. We hope to get everyone on board on a common ground, which is tomorrow. It's really amazing. We probably will get the mayor of DC come in, Brian Stevenson, Charles Blow, Serene Phil, and hopefully former President Obama. So let's work together and be in touch. Okay, you guys?
Thank you so much.
Sending much love and courage for now. And get some lunch, please. We deserve it. Thank you, you guys. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks,
all.
everyone.
Thank you. Yeah.